welcome. I've only got two questions, but then maybe we can kind of roll and just have a conversation or, sort of build on what's been asked. I beg your pardon.
I have a question after when you'll be ready.
All right. Okay. No, but that's perfect. Thank you, Linda. So the first question is, the person was first very kind. They said, "Thank you for your huge encouragement to see the world around us as our ally." I firmly believe that that is true, by the way. I've noticed people are kinder and I see more beauty in even small interactions. However, as a result and by contrast, the disgruntled stand out to me even more. One man recently tried to get around me in a shop and said Jesus loudly as I angrily as he pushed past. It stood out more than before when I'd have my back up and not be surprised by this sort of interaction. How do I try to see these interactions as less contrasting and less jarring? Is there a risk of being sort of naive in thinking of everybody as harmless? Well, uh, there's a lot in that question. It is naive to think of everybody as harmless because I myself have had rather disturbing experiences with people. So to think that everybody is harmless is not right. But there's another way of framing this, and the other way of framing this is to see that everything, the totality of everything, is harmless and is benign. And that doesn't suggest that every person you're going to be faced with is going to be sweet, kind, nice, angelic, because that's not at all the case. But you have to understand, though, that there is a Rab, and the Rab has created the entire sort of stage as a benign place for us to explore both our nature and his nature. Now, what makes a story interesting is that there are dark patches in the story. I mean, if it was all just sweetness and light, there wouldn't be anything interesting going on. So it's precisely that you get, on occasion, you get these sort of creepy characters. You get some of the sort of the shadow, if you like, in the scene, that creates contrast in the scene. So, and in order to appreciate that, you need to, in a sense, stand a little bit back from the event that's happening. And in fact, it's the logic. Really, all people, anybody who misbehaves to the point that they, in a sense, get under your skin, it's very useful to see this person as a petty tyrant. And we know that the usefulness of a petty tyrant is for me to explore my own expectations. So there's always two kind of ends to any experience. There's the there of the experience and there's the here of the experience. So there's the misbehavior and then there's my annoyance, upset, bemusement at the misbehavior. Now, one of the things that we do know is that we have a choice with regard to the register of how we respond to somebody else's annoying behavior. We can decide to if you like, for it to, in a sense, get one over us a little bit, get equally annoyed or get upset, or we can say react with maybe a little bit of maybe bemusement or at least curiosity. I wonder what's going on there. I mean, how come this person's behaving like this? What's at issue here? And it's that thing that we speak about in personal excellence. It's really the register of your response, the internal register of your response. So you can have a register of anything associated with outrage. Really, I mean, how could you? Or you could try curiosity, really. Or you can just try straightforward humor, really. I mean, you choose the register of your response to somebody else's misbehavior. We always do. I mean, this happens in any case. I mean, there is a register to our response. Now, the interesting thing is, when we disengage, the fight is no longer between that person and you. The fight is now between that person and the totality, the whole picture, because they operate under the same rules that you do. And the rules that you operate under basically say, when you mess up, at some point you'll walk into a pole because the game is designed like that. So you don't have to make somebody else's misbehavior your problem, and if you like, come to your defense. And in fact, the less you make it your problem, the more you see it as just a curiosity, the quicker that person will come to their own comeuppance. So it's not naive. It is naive to say that everybody's always going to behave nice and everything's always going to be sweetness and light. That is naive. But it's not naive to say that the stage the totality of the picture is benign and is in my interest and is my ally. And I don't have to deal with this particular kind of misbehavior because life will deal with it. Allah will deal with it. Allah comes to the defense of those who don't come to their own defense. It's like that. And that's not being a victim, by the way. That's exactly the opposite. It's really deliberately stepping out from underneath the drama. So I'm just going to see that I've answered correctly here. Yeah. How do I try to see these interactions as less contrasting and less jarring? Is there a risk of being naive? So what I've just said now speaks to the risk of being naive, thinking that everybody is harmless. No, everybody's not harmless, but the entire universe that faces you is harmless and is benign and operates in your interest. So it will take on this person. The second kind of the first point that the question is that how do I see these interactions as less contrasting and less jarring? Well, it is again, it's the being deliberate about the register of your response, which requires you to step back, to disengage, to be curious both about your own reaction and about the person's behavior. And not to hold too firmly on your judgment on what's going on. So it's this thing of being inwardly gathered. The more inwardly gathered you become, the more you reserve a little bit of your attention for the spaciousness that your being operates out of, the less these things can overwhelm you. The more you see them as interesting and curious rather than as offensive. That was the first question. The second question was a little bit more was going to be a bit more of a wordy answer. Person said that I mentioned in a dars that I recently had discussions in the Zawia about the ideal fakir. It did leave her wondering whether anything had come up in the discussion about the state people arriving. Yes, I strive to be as you describe as the ideal fakir to be, but when I came to the Zawia, I was lost and I had so many questions. I believe that openness was also a trait that allowed me to change and grow. Are you still technically a fakir when you have reached more perfected states like the one you've described? Yo. I'm very nervous about talking about perfected states. Precisely because I'm really not convinced that I've arrived at any of these. In fact, as I get older, the more I genuinely surprise myself at my own lack of eloquence and inability and stupidity in these matters. So I don't think we've ever. I think only the dead have arrived. Actually, I mean that's logically true because the dead have now passed the test of having to give everything unconditionally. Prior to that point, it's all kind of speculative, isn't it? I mean, you haven't yet gotten there yet. So. I don't know if this answers the question, but let me just check. I mean, it's just I really have this. For me, the word fakir. I mean, we know it means it technically means poor, but it means to be an aspirant. It means to be a seeker, and I think on this side of the grave we will remain seekers. We will remain pursuing, refining an insight. Otherwise, why be alive? I mean, if there isn't something that's busy, kind of slow cooking in you, that isn't quietly being prepared for something better, this is the purpose of the school we're in. We're in a school, and the purpose of the school is our own sort of transformation and growth. So while I'm alive, I'm still transforming and I'm still growing. So the seeker, if I'm allowed to use that word, has never arrived. And there'll always be an element of bemusement and confusion and not getting things right. And what's also intriguing about this process of not getting things right is that it really is cyclical. You know, you understand something with an absolute brilliance of insight. It's like a diamond between those, but of course. And then you act accordingly and your life changes and things are amazing. And then something happens like sideswipes you and it takes your attention off this truth. And then you kind of get hooked into a little drum. Before you know it, you've gone way off some peculiar, and you're distressed and you're depressed and you think your life is a mess and, you know, and then one night you maybe you're into Hajjud or something, you're really sorry for yourself. And he said, but you know, I've forgotten this thing. And then you remember, then everything comes right, and by the next morning, you know, you can't believe that you were depressed the day before. It's like you're inhabiting a different planet. I do think that's the human story. You know, I mean, even the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had periods of kind of disappointment, bemusement. I mean, he wasn't always in an ecstatic state. You know, I mean, I do think it's the human story. Alhamdulillah. I think that's it. Linda, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, so I have two questions. One for my sister, not Sonia, another one, and one for me. So I'll start with the one with my sister. So she said to me, "How can I start to pray, um, if I keep doing haram action, basically?" So she's on her path where she's going through a tough phase, 30 years old, very young, but she really sees there is good in prayer, and I think she said to me, I'm really keen to do that, but I do so many bad things. That's It makes me a hypocrite if I pray 5 times a day and keep doing these things. But I know her heart will really help her to heal to do that. So what would be the advice you can give to somebody who speaks as such? Thank you.
I mean, I think she's she's put the cart before the horse. I mean, it's the wrong way around. You're not an ideal person and then you pray. Your prayer is the journey of becoming a better person. And you know, this thing about viewing ourselves as these fallen creatures who get up to all this bad stuff and sin and, you know, I mean, I don't think that's helpful. I am my Rabb's creature. And my propensity to get up the most unbelievable mischief is partly with the design he's put into me. And he's put that design into me so that I can struggle. You know, there's, yes, that I mean, I sort of congratulate myself on my poor behavior. But this heavy-handed guilt is not helpful. You know, I mean, it's not you view yourself as on a journey and in a process. And then and it's a slow cook. It's not You're not going to see this miraculous change overnight. But if you start praying and you start finding succor in the prayer, you start finding solace in the prayer, then it's something you'll go back to because it does give you solace. Then look up again, and maybe that next glass of wine doesn't look that interesting. Or it's like, you know, it's not like you have to make this massive kind of conversion statement of revolutionizing your life. The more one does that, I mean, the bigger that sort of shift is, I find the less authentic it is and the less sustainable it is. So begin where you're at, kind of sort of don't expect yourself to be an angel. Do the best that you can. And then watch the slow boil and watch things kind of as you incrementally find delight and pleasure in the salah, so don't do the salah because it's this onerous burden, because that's part of the whole guilt story. Salah, if you do it with sort of uh, if you do it unpretentiously, your salah becomes nourishing. You find solace in it. It gives you peace. The person who does the salam at the end of the salah is not quite the same person who did the takbir. The person who did the takbir is kind of agitated, and the person is a little bit quieter. You just incrementally build that coolness and quietness into your life, and you'll see that incrementally things that were interesting to you before will now become boring. It won't have its fascination. All the sort of what we would call haram things. You see, the problem is they stay interesting when you get too disapproving of them. Isn't that so? I mean, something like really bad. That sounds interesting. So don't create a drama around it.
And I think it's also fighting this feeling of being hypocrite, because she was saying, I'm a hypocrite. I say, but we all are in a way. We all are trying to do what we're supposed to be doing, and we all are struggling. So in a way, we all are hypocrites.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. The whole
So
path is fake it until you make it.
Fake it.
Only the dead have stopped faking it.
Thank you. My question is, do you believe that we attract the situation, the people in our life that give us tests, ibtila? We believe in qadar. Whatever happens is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But since I've been on that journey, you taught us, change yourself, stop talking about others, and really go inward. And I'm really, really trying to apply that. And since I do apply that, I can see clearer, and I can see that some people came to knock at my door for a purpose. So does it mean that always, I've got to change vibration in me, or change a belief in me? Is it all about changing ourselves, and these people that come in our life, do they all come for a purpose?
Yeah, I do believe everyone comes for a purpose, and that purpose is only really realized, galvanized, when you act consistently with what the situation requires of you. I'll give you an example. If there's a part of my being that attests that Allah is the generous, Ya Kareem, and I myself am miserly whenever I interact with people. I sort of make sure that I don't pay the biggest part of the restaurant bill or whatever, kind of like, these little embarrassing things that people get up to. So let's assume I'm somebody like that. Then that conviction that I think I'm trying to pursue, that he is the generous, remains untrue for me. It is only once my action is consistent with that insight or with that claim that the truth becomes galvanized for me. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you can't just see differently. You have to act on the basis of the difference that you see. Now, so what does this mean in terms of people? If every person who comes into your life comes into your life with a purpose. Sometimes the purpose is to ask them to leave your life. Because that's the appropriate thing to do, is to be appropriately courageous for this person, because they are being abusive, they're being destructive to you, to somebody else, whatever, and you're not acting in that person's interest by acquiescing to whatever destructive misbehavior they get up to. You are actually acting in that person's interest when you are calmly willing to be the pole that they are going to walk into. So once you see somebody's being, obviously one has to be careful with this, because you don't want to chase every person out of your life. because every person on occasion has a bad day. So, I mean, you can't, but at the same time, if you realize that, listen, me acquiescing to this is actually doing this person is not doing the situation, this person no good. Then that, then your role is to get them out of your life in their interest. Yeah. So,
Do you remember when we had the class, Sheikh? You
yes.
told us about this lady who kept marrying, and all the time it was domestic violence in her couple, in her marriage. And I think, I'm not too sure, but I think you were trying to explain to us about her. There is something in her that she has to change.
That's right. That's right.
So this is what you're trying to this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're
That's
supposed
true,
to
but then yeah. But then it also means that she will act differently the next time she starts seeing a man who has that propensity. She won't attract that person, she'll reject that person, she'll repel that person. You've got to do something you can't just think differently and the world's going to change. It's got to spill into your hand. It's got to spill into your action. You can't just sit and say, I'm going back to the generosity thing. Yeah, life is generous, and you behave miserly. I mean, what your inside has to be reflected. That is the struggle. In fact, that also reflects to the question of your sister. I mean, our struggle is to make the inside reflect the outside, and the outside reflect is to be sincere, is to have, in that sense, to be authentic. That's a journey. And until you might have the most accurate insights in the world. If you're not acting consistently with them, you may just as well not have had them. Your being only gets changed. The transformation is only galvanized when your action is consistent with the insight that you're claiming.
So basically, walk the talk.
Yeah. And until you do the walking, doesn't matter what you're talking. You understand?
I love it.
It's the walking it's the walking that affects the change. Yeah. No, you can't sort of wish to be courageous and every time there's a fight, run away. I mean, that's no. You pump up all the courage you like. It actually means next time there's a fight, you take it on. You don't run away.
Thank you, Sheikh. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Any other questions, folks?
I have one, Sheikh.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, there's lots. So, can I have Maheen first? Because she's the one I saw first. And then Mahmoud?
Yes, absolutely.
And then I think Shama also looks like she wants to ask something. But let's ask Maheen first.
Sure. Sheikh, I wanted to just follow up on that. I mean, it makes so much sense, the idea that what you do, your actions have to match the insight or the, the learning that you've kind of seen, right? When you've seen clearly. And what I've learned, at least about myself, what I've noticed is that sometimes it takes a while for the walk to match the talk. That too takes its process, because I find like it's just not so easy to do instantly. Like maybe there's still some fear remaining. I might see something really clearly, but there's still some fear remaining in me, or something that's stopping me from actually doing the thing. I know what I need to do, but I'm, that also happens. And then I can see that I can see that I'm not acting. I'm not only seeing the truth, but I'm also seeing I'm not acting inconsistent. I'm not acting
consistently with it. Yes.
And then I'm kind of stuck in that for a little bit. And then and like the way I've been kind of like, okay, I'm going to give myself the space for that too will come. I have to keep reminding myself of the truth. And, and sometimes that happens, but I don't know, is there any other guidance that you have?
No, I think that's right. Maheen, I wouldn't want to say make it, because that is the process. I mean, it's kind of like, it's small iterations, and the iterations basically are forgetting and remembering.
Okay, thank you, Sheikh. That's helpful.
Mahbub?
So Sheikh, as I'm sort of seeing the world more as an ally and trying to not get drawn into dramas, I found a couple of situations where, for example, everybody around me at work is panicking, and I'm there in my head sort of trying to witness it and thinking, oh, alhamdulillah, this is good. Mashallah, his plan will happen. What's all the drama about? and people are looking at me thinking, why is this guy not bothered? You know, why is he so laid back? Or
What are you
somebody's pouring their
smoking?
heart out. Yeah, exactly what you smoking. Someone's pouring their heart out, and I'm just listening, thinking that's not a big deal, and they're sort of saying, "Oh, you lack empathy." So, is there a solution to that? Is that kind of comes with the package? Do you sometimes need to play a role, or kind of what's the way of because I could, yeah, sorry.
So I'm trying to understand, are you describing a situation where somebody's coming to you and they've got a problem?
Yes. So someone might be coming to me and they've got a problem and they're expressing it with emotion and they're thinking it's a big deal. And I'm listening and kind of feeling, well, it's not that big a deal because in the totality of things, this is nothing. And I'm more interested rather than kind of feeling that it's a big deal, or in the work situation, people think it's a really big drama, a really big problem. And I'm just not sensing that at all. And then the feedback that I'm receiving is, well, it's almost there's something wrong with me. And it's kind of is there a balance to be had there? Or is it, yeah, you just let them think what they want and don't defend yourself?
So I do think the two scenarios you're describing, I mean, they sound similar, but they're not quite the same. And the first one for me talks to how we empathize. And I think we have to remember that any person's biggest problem, I mean, every person has a problem. That's how, you know, and of all the problems we have, every person's got a biggest problem. And actually, no matter how small that problem is, the person's biggest problem is a big problem. It's because it's their biggest problem, you know. So it's like there isn't an absolute standard of that now we've hit a crisis. Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like when I drop my ice cream on the floor. And I break down. I mean, this is my. I have a real problem, you know. Then you know, kind of, and maybe you can sit down and kind of just reassure me that look, you probably will get another ice cream in your life, you know, rather than say, don't be silly, it's just an ice cream. You know what I mean? You know, because ice creams are very important to me, and I mean, you know, I don't like losing my ice cream. And for me, that's maybe that. So that's for me. It really is an issue of empathy and not trying to impose some sort of absolute standard on what the difference between a crisis and not a crisis is. You know. But the second thing, a working team. There's nothing more useful to a working team than somebody who can't get flustered. So because you'll be the one cool head, and I mean I've seen this recently in a very big crisis. My son. They had a massive problem in the business that he's working in, and he's working with a group of colleagues and his boss. I beg your pardon. Sorry, excuse me. Let me just, I beg your pardon. Talk of the devil. This is exactly the guy I'm telling you about. He just called. Anyhow, I mean, he's not the devil. He's a very nice man. So his boss said to him, you know, thank heavens you were the one guy who wasn't acting in a panic and helped to navigate us through this crisis. So in a working team, it doesn't mean to say you don't recognize that this is a problem, but you don't have to get panicked about it, you know? Yeah, they're not quite the same thing for me, Mehboob. If a person has a problem, then you know, I mean, if your child is dying of cancer and somebody says, it's just the way of the world, you know, I mean, that's not right. Be kinder. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you know what I mean. I mean, you kind of like, but when don't give up your equanimity when the group is in a crisis, because that's actually helpful to the group, whether they think you fall on your head or not. That calm is exactly what the group needs. Shama?
So my question was, so I think you've sort of answered parts of it at different points, but basically it's related to sort of this ongoing genocide. And I think over the last year, a lot of things you've said have really helped me sort of see it sort of in a different way. And I think it's also had it's made me see the world differently and things like that. But I guess my question very simply is, um, I guess whatever happens in our universe, we have some role to play in it in terms of how we respond to it. And if our role at this moment is to be witnesses during this genocide, aside from, you know, the lessons it can give us in terms of sort of that we can't control it and, you know, those types of things, what are actions we're supposed to be taking? Because at some level, I feel like collective action is what makes a difference. And so the way I feeling like I need to do something, and I go on these like this like my college online community, and I just fight with people on it, and that energy doesn't feel right. And in fact, I feel like in your first answer, that really helped me see that, because there's something in me in how I respond to it as well. But then what is the appropriate way to act? Like, what is our role as witnesses, and what are we supposed to be doing? Because it feels like there's something we should be doing in this context, but I don't know what the appropriate way to act is.
This Israeli phenomenon is a nightmare. It is a horror. It is a brutality that is beyond words. It is the most shocking thing that has happened in this century, and it's not stopping. And I'm saying this as a precursor to what I'm going to say after this. Now, I ask myself, what can I do? I honestly don't think being part of an online howl of outrage is constructive. We have now these communication media that actually helps to create quite a peculiar world. I mean, it puts a bombing and the body of a child in the street in my lounge, and it does that on a daily basis if I allow it to. And then there's a level at which what's actually happening is that I'm allowing my day-to-day experience of things to actually become pickled in outrage. So I can see that you want a right answer from me, and I actually don't have a right answer. I can say how I'm handling this. First of all, I'm very deliberate about how often I allow myself to look there or go there. Because I think it queers my view, it queers the pitch of my view of my whole experience, just by taking this one electronically mediated image and sticking that in my head all the time. So I don't allow myself to look at too much of this stuff. And I don't allow myself to become part of the howl of outrage, because the howl of outrage is actually an expression of impotence. So my question is, where does my potency lie in this matter? Well, my potency lies like in a situation like this. When somebody asks me, what do you think about this? I say to them, I think it's the most horrendous, it's just unspeakable brutality. It's just beyond, it's beyond humanity. It's gobsmacking, it's like, so I say my piece when it's necessary for me to say my piece. The second thing I do is like, for instance, in South Africa, there's quite a number of businesses, and they're quite important businesses and influential businesses that have interests in or support Israel. And then I would make sure that I would not purchase those things. I try and I become part of the board, because that is in my power. So I try and interrogate myself, what's in my power, and then I'm quite disciplined about staying in my lane. And because otherwise I don't think anything's going to be addressed by everybody by just heating up the. I mean, there's an element of being played in this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like all these images, it's like all this clickbaiting, it heats up your own experience to things where you're no longer, your inner life is no longer your own. You're occupied. You occupy territory. And once people have occupied this territory, God knows what they can do with you. You know, I mean, it's like it's allowing yourself to become a vehicle for somebody else. So the bigger problem in all of this is not sacrificing your agency and being damn sure that you deal with this thing in appropriately sized bites so you don't give up your agency. Yeah, but I mean that's the way in which I'm dealing with it, and I mean I'm not about to promulgate this as some sort of an absolute rule. I mean it's just otherwise I'd spend every day in a rage, and that's going to be constructive to. I've got a Zawia to run. I can't walk up to the, walk around like a bull with a sore head the whole time here.
Thank you, Sheikh. That's really helpful.
All right. All right, folks, it looks like we're done. Thank you very much for coming. Mahbub and I were just gossiping, so no, man, this isn't working. We must stop doing this.
Oh, we shouldn't. I think it's something really
Please
good.
don't stop. Please don't stop doing this.
Okay. But
Yes,
I do
please, I
think
really
the cadence of every second month is better. Eh?
I mean, I'll leave that up to you. I'm happy with every month too, if that's what you decide. So it's up to you.
Okay, well, look, I mean, for the next, it's November now. I'm going on a merry-go-round of lots of work and travel abroad. So I don't think probably we're looking towards the end of January that I'll be able to do something again. Yeah. But
That
thank
sounds
you very
good.
much.